This is crazy. This is actually really crazy, and it's getting to a point where I do believe that James Gunn is using magic, that James Gunn is some sort of wizard, because he knows how to make obscure, unknown, and nobodies turn into known characters and beloved characters of any given franchise. We have seen this in the Guardians of the Galaxy. We have seen this in Peacemaker. We have seen this in the Suicide Squad. And we're seeing this in Creature Commandos, specifically with G.I. Robot. I did not really care about G.I. Robot despite knowing who he was as a character before this until I watched episode 3 of Creature Commandos, and I ain't even gonna lie, I fell in love with G.I. Robot's character in the last episode. So it's crazy that back-to-back episodes, episode 3 and now episode 4, we're seeing another obscure unknown character be written in a way that makes me and many other people who watch this episode, because I'm seeing the timeline, they are really starting to like Weasel. And I am just so shocked at how Weasel is a interesting and a heartbreaking character in terms of his story, because James Gunn, he knows how to create very emotional backstories that will actually make you question what you initially thought of the character when you first saw them on the screen. Because when I first saw Weasel in Creature Commandos, I did not care for Weasel. I did not think anything of Weasel. In my honest opinion, I thought that he was the worst part of the Suicide Squad in 2021. So when I saw that Weasel was here, and I also saw that Weasel beat Cersei so quickly, I ain't even gonna lie, I didn't really vibe with that. But this episode made me shut my mouth. This episode made me prove that yes, I am wrong again. And you're probably wondering to yourself, when will Big Bro stop yapping and tell us why he thinks that episode 4 of Creature Commandos is great because of Weasel? And I'll tell you this exactly why. Because episode 4 starts off where episode 3 ended, because we saw Cersei get defeated. So now she is sent to prison. She is sent to the prison that Amanda Waller and Johnny Economos and Rick Flag Sr. are at, and they are basically holding her captive. So they cuff her with these type of handcuffs that can disrupt her using her power, because in the DCU, Cersei, she gains her powers with her hands. That's how she uses her powers. But we see that now they are basically asking Cersei, why did you attack Pokalistan? Why did you want to kill Princess Alana? And if you have been paying attention since the first episode of Creature Commandos, we have been seeing these visions of Justice League characters like Superman. We have been seeing characters like Wonder Woman, Peacemaker, so many of these heroes, and they are basically dead in this weird future timeline that the show keeps on cutting to for at least 5 seconds. And we see that these visions, we see that these future timelines, they are actually playing a role as to why Cersei is doing what she's doing. They're playing a role for Cersei's ambitions in killing Princess Alana, because Cersei explains to Amanda Waller, it's best if I show you instead of telling you, because you will not believe what I will tell you. So Amanda Waller calls her bluff, despite Johnny Economos and Rick Flag Sr. trying to tell Amanda, do not fall for Cersei's trap, because she is very mischievous and she can actually trick you. She can actually tap into your mind without using her hands. So Amanda Waller, she is not backing down. She is determined to know what Cersei's ambitions really are. So she now actually goes into the holding cell that Cersei is at, and Cersei now uses her powers to show Amanda Waller a vision of the future. And the future of her visions is that Princess Alana becomes a tyrant. She becomes a world conqueror by completely conquering every continent around her, even America. She goes into the American White House and she takes control of it, and she kills the entire Justice League with Gorilla Grodd. And I was shocked seeing Gorilla Grodd, because wow, this universe is so in depth. We are seeing many characters that we have not seen on the big screen. and Gorilla Grodd's inclusion means that he will be a Flash/Justice League villain. So I am excited to see Gorilla Grodd in the DCU. But when Amanda Waller sees this, she gets scared, she gets shocked, she starts to almost hyperventilate, she starts to sweat, and she now goes back to Rick Flag Sr. and Johnny Economos and tells them, yes, I do think her visions are legitimate. I do think that she is telling the truth with her visions. And Rick Flag Sr. is calling her bluff because remember, even though Ilana was a ditty, Rick Flag Sr. is actually starting to like Ilana after they actually hooked up and they now fucked. So Rick Flag Sr., he is not liking where Amanda Waller is going, and Amanda Waller, she's going exactly where Rick Flag Sr. is thinking, because she tells Rick Flag Sr. we need to kill Princess Ilana ASAP, as soon as possible. So Rick Flag, he is not on board with this mission. He does not want to kill Princess Ilana, so he actually quits the team. He tells Amanda Waller, I am not doing this, I am leaving. So when he leaves, Amanda Waller tells Economos that they need to find a new leader that is worth killing Princess Ilana. So Amanda now tells Johnny Economos to get the Creature Commandos ready again, and they need to go back to Polistan to kill Ilana. So as this happened, when the episode actually started, before this Amanda Waller scene, we saw that Eric Frankenstein was spying on Rick Flag, and he noticed Rick Flag talking with the bride, and he got jealous. So now he is hunting Rick Flag. So this now ties back into when Rick Flag left and he is driving home. We now see this yellow car following Rick Flag, and when Rick Flag reaches his house, he now tries to open his door. The yellow car just crash lands into his tree, and the person that gets out of that car is Eric Frankenstein. And Eric Frankenstein, he is such a simp, he is such a stalker that he would do anything in his power to kill anyone that is near the bride. So he tries to do exactly just that by basically attacking Rick Flag Sr. in his own home, and they fight throughout all the rooms in Rick Flag's home. They destroy all his furniture, they destroy all his walls, and the fight is crazy because Rick Flag, he is vastly overpowered. He's trying his best to survive, but the fight now ends when Rick Flag, he has a gun towards Frankenstein's eye, and he basically assumes that, I'm pretty sure your entire body is impenetrable, but I know your eyes are vulnerable. So this causes the fight to stop because Eric Frankenstein, before he starts to cry, he starts to laugh. And when he now starts to cry, we now see them both sit down and both come to an agreement, because Eric Frankenstein in this universe, he is so in love with the bride that he really wants the bride. He wants to marry the bride. But since he's seen that Rick Flag Sr.'s allegiance to Amanda Waller is gone, they now actually come with a deal, because Rick Flag, he proposes a deal saying, if you can help me stop Amanda Waller, I can probably help you with the bride. So when that happened, we now see the Weasel in prison, and the Weasel, he is visited by this lawyer called Elizabeth Bates, because Elizabeth Bates, she is on a hunch that Weasel is innocent of the murder of 23 kids, and it's actually not 23 kids, it's actually 8 kids. And when she meets with Rick Flag Sr. and when she meets with the people that are in that prison, they doubt her. They say that Weasel is a killer. Weasel is someone that should not be released. But Elizabeth Bates, she is still adamant that Weasel is innocent. So we now see a later scene when Elizabeth Bates meets up with Weasel and tries to interrogate Weasel. Not really an interrogation, but she's trying to basically ask Weasel, do you remember these kids? Do you know who these kids are? Do these kids bring any emotion out of you? Then we now see a flashback of Weasel. He meets these 8 kids. He meets these children when they're playing outside school. I'm pretty sure school is over, so we're seeing them play with each other. They're playing, I think it was basketball, or they're just playing a game. And then Weasel, you know, he's an animal, so they now see him, they discover Weasel, they now actually feed Weasel food, they feed him some snacks. This causes Weasel to feel comfortable with these kids. So then Weasel, as the animal he is just playing around with these kids. He is just basically doing what an animal is doing when he meets new people, when he meets kids, especially because kids, they're very fun with animals. But as this is going on, we see that somewhere from afar, some weird hunter, not really a hunter, but some hillbilly dude who is basically looking and seeing this. Whoa, what is this werewolf type person doing with these kids? This werewolf type person is about to eat these kids. That he now sees the kids and Weasel go inside the school, because as they were playing, the door got opened, and when this person, this hillbilly person, sees that, he is thinking to himself, oh my god, he's gonna take these kids into school and kill them. So he now gets a shotgun, at the same time calling the police as well, so that the police can come in time. But we see that the police, they do not take this call seriously. They think that this guy is just rambling, this guy is psychotic. But as the police, you know, they still have to do their job, so they eventually still come, but they come at a later time. And then eventually we see the heartbreaking part of this episode that made me actually almost shed a tear, because Weasel is innocent. Weasel was framed this whole time. These last 3 episodes, I thought that Weasel was nothing but a weird child killer. I thought that Weasel was nothing but an irredeemable child hunter and child eater. But no, we see that that is not Weasel's fault, because when Weasel and the children, they are downstairs in the basement just playing around, just having fun, one of the kids has a match, and simultaneously when the kid lit the match, another kid had an alcohol bottle, because they found an alcohol bottle inside a teacher's desk. So when that happened, one other kid now bumped into the kid with the alcohol bottle, causing the alcohol bottle to fly in the direction of the match. And then when that happened, it was a big freak accident, because it now caused a fire to erupt. But then simultaneously, the hillbilly with the shotgun comes down, and he now sees what's happening. He sees a fire, and he now starts to point the blame at Weasel, that he now shoots at Weasel's direction. And this causes a big tank that's in the basement to basically erupt in flames, and it now kills basically most of the kids except one little girl. Then we see Weasel, he's trying his best to save this little girl. He's trying his best to get her to safety, and she is clinging on to life. She is about to die. But then we now see the part where Weasel gets framed, because the police officers, remember, they respond late because they thought that this guy was actually lying and crazy. But when they pull up to the scene, they see that the school is on fire. Then they see the person holding the little girl is Weasel, so they start to shoot at Weasel. Weasel tries to run away, but then something happens that causes the girl to be separated from Weasel, and Weasel, he's trying to crawl back to get to the girl, but they still shoot at Weasel, and we see the building crash land onto the girl, killing her in front of Weasel, and Weasel now screams in agony. And when this happened, they now drag Weasel away, and they now arrest Weasel. And when I saw that, I was like, yo, this episode, I thought this episode at first was pretty mid, but man, this episode turned out to be very great because of Weasel's backstory. That shit made me almost shed a tear. That shit was emotional. I don't know how James Gunn does this. I don't know how he manufactures these obscure and unknown characters to be loved and to be very great, in my honest opinion, in the franchise that he's doing it with. So I am trying to see what's gonna happen in the next episode of Creature Commandos, because I'm pretty sure that episode is gonna be great. And since the Superman trailer dropped and that was peak, James Gunn is doing great with the DCU so far. He is going to take this universe to heights that DC has possibly haven't seen in the last 10 to 12 years, man. But that's the end of the video. I'm out. Peace.